Hey, everybody, you're listening to So Many Sequels or watching it. I don't know. I'm Josh.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
We're doing this show differently, as you can tell if you are watching. I don't know if you'll be able to tell if you're listening, but we'll go ahead and walk you through it. So we're conducting this show through Zoom remotely. We're doing the whole everybody's social distancing right now. Everybody's in their own quarantine situation, so we thought it would be best to try doing the show this way so that we could still record and also be as safe as possible. So we figured this out, and so far, it seems to be going okay.
You'll notice Andrew's in another dimension if you are watching this. He secluded himself so much he went to Vormir.
Yeah, and he is reporting from space.
Yeah. What's weird is, like, Andrew, how old is your computer?
47.
2012.
Oh, well, it is over the, never mind. I was going to say my computer is like 5 years old, but that's me.
Mine's got you beat by a country mile.
So
it kind of matches with our actual age.
Speaking of old things, we're talking about Men in Black 2 today.
Yeah.
Black suit.
Yeah.
We're coming, or whatever.
We talked about Men in Black already. Talk about Men in Black 2 this week. It is a movie that exists. It came out in 2002, several years after the first one. Still directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. Still starring Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. But this time adding the, the brilliance of Johnny Knoxville, if we want to call it brilliance.
Yeah.
No, that's a strong word.
Johnny Knoxville in sort of the prime of his career.
Rosario Dawson, she is actually good.
She's always good.
It was a breakout, I would say.
And a handful of others. So this movie is, I don't know. Listen, I just got to say it. None of us really like it.
No, it's...
Well,
some may like it more than others, but I don't think any of us really liked it.
Sucks through a straw.
Well,
I don't know quite about that, but it's not quite up to the level of the first one.
This had potential that it missed. I think the story's good.
I think the story's better than the first one. Yeah.
Ooh.
The story is better than the first one. I don't think the execution is as good as the first one.
Execution definitely not as good. I think the story's good. They had a good plot. They had a good idea. But they dumbed it down so much that it hurt to watch it.
Agree. I absolutely agree.
So, David, you said you like this story better. Tell us the basics of this plot, and then explain why you think it's better than the first one.
So, in the origins, in the early days of the Men in Black, a secret event happened that very few people know about, except for maybe some crazy crackpot conspiracists who believe that an alien race visited Earth in the 1960s and left behind a relic, or as far as they know, the Men in Black helped remove a special relic from Earth that was being sought after by this evil creature. And now, here we are all these years later, and the creature has returned because they cannot find the item, so they have come back to the one place where they knew it was last for sure. And it is just in time for the one person who can actually help save the day has been recently retired. And so now our hero has to go back and find his partner and bring him back into the fold so that they can save the Earth. And I think that, is that my dog or one of y'all's?
Yours.
Dog.
It's your dog.
The sky making an appearance.
I got my headphones in, so it sounds like that dog's like 1,000 miles away. Hey, stop that barking. I think that's to me a more interesting story than the first one, because while the first one is nice, this one kind of leans on the idea that the Men in Black have been around for a long time. They've been around there's a history there. There's background. There's origin elements for what made Kay who he is. It's a mystery versus what you get in Men in Black 1, which has mystery elements, but is mostly just like a buddy cop film. And here's the first case, and it's this bug that's trying to get this item, and he's trying to get away. That's more or less the bare bones of that. Whereas this, even if you look at it at bare bones, it's like this is a story about having to bring somebody back who knows something, and there's that whole mystery element to it. I think that's a better story. I think that it gets bogged down with a lot of childish humor that, unfortunately, I feel like this movie, they really tried to play in more into having Will Smith. Whereas the first movie was like, we have Will Smith, let's make this movie work. This one's like, Will, just do whatever you think's funny. And so it's a lot of Will Smith improv, it feels like.
So they talk a little bit about this movie and the production and the creation of it. David Koepp, he was originally involved and then left to do Panic Room and Spider-Man. The script was written by Robert Gordon and then revised by Barry Fanarow. And they talked about how Gordon deliberately avoided any kind of like pop culture references. And then during the refining process, that Fanarow guy threw them in there. And God, those are just so bad. Like, you know, as a kid, it was 2012. Is that right?
2002.
2002. Oh, okay.
You would have been 12.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So like 12-year-old Garrett laughed at all of those at those moments. Like the part where Frank is singing Who Let the Dogs Out in the car. Hilarious for a 12-year-old. As a 30-year-old, it's just awful because it doesn't vibe with the Men in Black action, adventure, sci-fi. It's just, it comes across as this stupid thing in there for kids, and it's just not good. And while these movies are meant to be funny, not that kind of funny. Like that's not the humor that I want in Men in Black, and it does not come across well.
It's the risk you run with topical references, you know.
That's what was wrong with Deadpool 2.
The part where the other part where Frank sings and he sings I Will Survive is slightly funnier because it's an older song, so it's not as it's not dated in the same way. But it felt like they didn't have any sort of idea of what to do with Jay without K. So like everybody who they bring in to sort of be like the other character with him was just a placeholder for a long time.
I want to add that maybe I think it's probably due to studio interference, because this is one of those times where it's just like, we have this character here, but let's make it as funny as possible, not really caring what type of content we put in there. But make it PG-13, make it aimed towards kids. And I think that's what they were going towards, where Men in Black is sort of an adult, not really an adultish, but it's like it's targeted to more adults than it is to children. And I think they're trying to play off of that. They're trying to play off of the TV show.
Yeah, maybe.
That's just me.
Interesting.
They Barry Sonnenfeld talks about he did Wild Wild West, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So he talked about the movie, and he said he took issue with the producer's focus of the love story between Will Smith and Rosario Dawson's character, saying, quote, "I learned on Wild Wild West that audience didn't want to see Will Smith as the straight man. And until Tommy comes back into the movie, by definition, Will is the straight man." And I mean, you got to agree with that. Like, Will Smith is as good as they are back and forth, like, Will Smith is the Costello to Tommy Lee Jones Abbott. Like, they're both funny in their own ways, but he is definitely not the straight man. He's too
not at that point,
over the top to an extent, and I mean that in a good way. But like especially compared to Tommy Lee, where if he's got to be the one that's the straight man, it's just not as good if it's not a drama.
No, he definitely didn't have the that level of command at that point in his career. Maybe today you could reverse a role there with having Will Smith be your straight man and having a younger, more eccentric comedian come in and be the joke to Will's straight man. But it's hard to beat when you know what Will Smith can do. And so they bring in Putty, they bring in Frank the Pug, they bring in Rip Torn, the Worms, whoever they can. And in a situation too where they're doing the Rosario Dawson love meetup, thing, audiences want to see Will Smith be funny. And so like him having to be like, y'all, yo, what are you doing? You know, like it's not, people don't want to see that. I get it.
Well, I personally like the romance interest between Jay and Rosario Dawson. Laura,
Laura, I think, yeah.
because it's very similar. What they do throughout these movies is they show you the similarities between and Jay so well. Like what Will Smith is currently going through is the exact same thing that Kay went through in the initial parts of this whole saga, where he let his emotions and his love for this alien take over, and he kept the light on Earth because he loved that alien. And now Will is faced with this same decision of, I love this woman, but for the fate of the Earth, I have to let her go. And you just see them continue, K and J, you see them continue to bond over such shared storylines while still having those personality differences. They have those same shared experiences, which only brings them closer, which brings us as an audience to really enjoy and appreciate their dynamic a lot more. And that's what I say whenever this movie has a lot of potential. The elements are there. It's just not well done overall. But you can certainly see what they're going to do, what they're trying to do.
And I mean, and when you have a duo that has such, I mean, like, I don't think people would have picked it, you know, especially even in 1997. When you have a duo that has such a natural chemistry as Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith do, to sort of, you know, we'll get into this with future movies, to sort of like try to recreate the magic without using that is very difficult. So this movie, it's a while before Kay shows up and you sort of get that dynamic again. And I think the movie picks up once Kay comes back. It's hard to believe that if I read some of my stuff right, that it was even later in the movie before Kay was supposed to come back. He was supposed to come back really deep into the movie.
Because Sonnenfeld's talking about people not wanting to see Will Smith during that refining process, they also brought Kay to the movie earlier, which, again, smart. Because Kay didn't really change once he had his memory wiped. He just couldn't remember the aliens, but his personality and the way that he treated Will Smith or Jay, even before he knew what was going on, was very similar to what he did whenever he knew what was going on. So he kept that same personality, and they just work well together.
And
I think when this is something we'll have to explore a little more in our next episode when we talk about Men in Black 3. But the one thing I want to bring up to compare the two is that in both of these movies, for a significant amount of time, Kay does not know who Jay is. Yeah. And it works well in Men in Black 3, and it doesn't in Men in Black 2. I don't feel like in the third one there is that same awkwardness between the two that exists in the second one, where it's kind of uninteresting seeing them interact. So I wonder if maybe they learned from that, or I don't know, maybe it was just better by coincidence. But I agree that the interaction between the two was not good until Kay comes back fully.
I mean, it's kind of fun seeing Kay be a little bit like fish out of water, not really understanding and having to be sort of the rookie, but willing to play along. But once his memories start to come back, that's when you're like, it feels like back in the saddle again, which I think most people who come to see the movie, they wanted that from the beginning.
Yes, I completely agree. By the time it gets going, it's almost done. And that's not a satisfying sequel.
Yeah, once they get away from the childish humor near the end, the middle end, then the movie feels like a Men in Black movie again. It's still kind of silly compared to the other ones, but they get rid of Frank the Pug for the most part. They everybody's on lockdown at MIB headquarters, and then it's just K and J trying to figure out how to solve these clues, and you get more of those two working together. The whole scene in the pizza parlor where Will Smith is trying to solve all these clues, and he's following these arrows that don't lead to anywhere. They lead to anchovy fillets. And Kay's just like, I hope I'm not slowing you down. He's got the keys already there. Like, that dynamic is what people want. And, like, not a weird random Michael Jackson appearance. You could give me a little more Patrick. Yeah, you could give me a little more Patrick Warburton. He's fine. He's funny.
Yeah, he was funny.
I think that they could have had a pretty good dynamic. But it did what it needed to do. Just a lot of stupid humor. I mean, even Johnny Knoxville's stupid. I mean, like, why would you ever
I
cast
don't
him?
feel like. I mean, I know this is gonna give me some hate. I don't feel like Johnny Knoxville's the worst part about this movie.
He's
not the worst part.
No.
He's just
not
a
that
bad
bad.
actor.
He
It's
doesn't
just-
even necessarily have. He doesn't even necessarily have that many lines.
Yeah.
No, it's
I mean,
not. To me, it's just them trying to capitalize off Jackass, and I didn't need it.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people, for whatever reason, wanted to give Johnny Knoxville a legitimate shot at acting, and I don't really get it. But
No, because it never worked.
it's the same time period of like Dukes of Hazzard, and it never really caught on. And I appreciate that he seemed to want to do it. That's nice of him, I guess. But I mean, I didn't expect much. Now, when I was 12, I also didn't give a crap.
No.
If anything, I feel like the movie is a lazy effort, because it's a lazy effort to try to wrangle up all these people and try to be as funny as possible, and it doesn't work. And yeah, it really doesn't start to get good until about maybe 2/3 of the way in.
Yeah, there's too much winking to the audience, I think.
Yeah.
And like Johnny Knoxville is not just a cameo. He's like an actor in the movie, but it does feel like a wink. And then there's that Michael Jackson thing that was mentioned. That's like, hey, you know the guy that you think's weird?
Yeah, get
He's
it?
an alien. Get it?
I mean,
he's an
I
alien.
can be Agent
They had that in
M.
the first movie. You know, you see Martha Stewart cooking on the TV. You hear,
Right.
you give Rodman a call. He knows what's going on.
Right, but the difference is those are so subtle. And I made a note about something in the third movie, which we'll talk about next week, but those are so subtle that it doesn't really come across. Like, the difference is that these jokes are in your face and they make that the humor. Whereas in the other ones, they have those subtle pieces where you see Martha Stewart on the screen, but she's not a focus. She's not even really mentioned at all. She's just there, and it's like, oh, she's an alien too. Like, they just have these subtle little things that you need to pick up. And that's what makes it work. And then again, and I still think this part's funny, but again, more stupid humor is whenever they are at Jeeves and he's getting his memory back and they're doing that fake deneuralizer and they're going through all of the henchmen and he's talking about the Balchinian. Like, that's just stupid humor. It's funny.
Stupid.
It's
but
baffling that it's
childish.
that it's PG-13 okay, really.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It's like, that's borderline.
You know, they let the worm guys have such a strong part, and they were just in there for stupid laughs.
It's
the
bizarre.
whole scene at Grand Central Station where they're like the little alien race in the locker is worshiping a porn store, and they all rush into this XXX.
Yeah, well, that's a part of the
like,
that's
that's
part
all
of the card that he left, right?
Yeah.
Right, but it's all
Card
stupid
has like
humor.
four things on it, and they take that as commandments.
Yeah, but it's
I
just
don't know.
dumb.
I don't mind that scene so much just because it gave us the line at the very end and during the mid-credit scene where Kay puts him in Jay's locker at work and goes, "Why you put them rats in my locker, man?"
Yeah.
I just it makes me giggle every time.
If I do want to say anything else, I will say that Lara Flynn Boyle's villain, I feel like her role was nothing but a bunch of one-liners. Like, every time you see her, it's just like she says like one or two lines, and then she's done. And then it doesn't really emphasize anything. That's why I think it's lazy. It's lazy characterization. And
She's very B-movie bad guy,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's intentional or if that's
She hits a lot of cliches. It's like she's there as a villain just because they needed a villain, and not because she really contributed much to the story.
No, this might sound insensitive, but I think even by 2002 standards, she's not like a star power name.
No.
Well, I can't
don't
even
think
remember.
so.
Was she on the Practice or Jag or something like
I think it was
that?
on
And
Practice.
it was like Ally McBeal.
Jag. Let's see. It was The Practice.
Yeah, maybe The Practice.
Yes.
I think somebody else was originally cast to play that part, and then she had to, whoever it was, had to step away, and Laura Flynn Boyle. I was trying to find it, but I couldn't find it again.
I mean,
But I think I'd read that.
I know Vincent D'Onofrio wasn't big star power either, but he's at least like a well-known character actor.
Right. Well, his
He held his own.
his villain brought something to the story.
But
Yeah.
and then again, we'll talk about it I would argue that none of their villains have been like super big name people.
No.
At least at the time. I mean,
Mhm.
Laura Flynn Boyle could have done just as good as Vincent D'Onofrio or Jermaine Clement in the next one. I mean, I know that Flight of the Conchords are people that I love, and I think that most people have at least heard of them, but I don't think anybody would be like, oh yeah, that's Jermaine Clement. He's really great.
Well, and I honestly prefer it that way. I don't like it when the villain is just being distracted by star power. I want the
Yeah.
villain to be good because they're good and not because they're somewhat famous.
Agreed.
And on these movies, it just kind of failed across the board. Other than I do think in Men in Black 1 that is a good villain.
Yeah. I think that. Oh, we'll get into the third one next week. I think that the
Yeah, and the third one he's a fine villain.
Yeah.
It's just there's a lot more driving that story, and I think it works better.
I think here the specter of what she's supposed to be is more compelling than the actual performance.
Mhm.
And the final reveal of her character's final reveal is good and all.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean overall
I'd argue that I don't even
asking
know.
it come back to this movie feels like an obligation 2 years after it should have come out.
Well, I don't even, you're looking at this story, and I don't even know if it needed a central villain. The race against the clock itself, trying to figure out who the light is, what the light is to get it off Earth. You know that if it's not off of Earth at a certain time, the world's going to end. I think that a race against a clock itself is pretty good. You can have some aliens there, kind of like Serlina, like a group of aliens that are trying to prevent that from happening because they have some kind of vengeance. But I don't think that Serlina herself needed to be a central thing, because you've got the fact that, I mean, maybe for the beginning, maybe for the reason for like him keeping her there, but you've got the race against the clock trying to get his memories back, the love story, and the fact that Jay is torn between sending her and keeping her. Like, all of that itself is a good enough story to where you don't necessarily need that centralized villain, in my opinion. You need
No.
some kind of antagonist.
I think that I think they could have gotten away with that.
I wanted to talk about David Cross making his second appearance in this movie franchise. He's supposed to be a different character.
I don't know.
Is that what we're doing here? Because in the first one, he worked at the morgue, and he was a creepy-looking dude, and was gooped to the ceiling. I assumed he was killed. Shows up in this one. And then there was another part that I just picked up on watching it this time, is whenever he gets neuralized by Jay, Jay is like, get out of your mom's house. At the end, he picks up a shovel and walks away. Are we led to believe that he's about to go kill his
mom?
That's what I was thinking. Like, ever since I saw this, it's like, he's gonna go kill his mom?
Like, that's another one of those like dumb, humorous type things. Like, what?
I like that. That's really funny to me.
It was subtle, but it's just so out of character.
Because it's an unspoken, it's physical comedy, but it's also like the unbeknownst power that Jay wields with the neuralizer that he doesn't even realize. Like, gives no specifics. He just says, "Move out of your mom's house."
Right, but that leads me to
like
believe
David
that
Cross
he's not going to move out of his
like,
mom's house. He's going to move his mom out of the house.
I know, but like his
it's all interpretation.
How his brain, this is a messed up mind. He just like looks at his wife, looks at Julie the cat, takes off his glasses, and says, "You want to go to Argentina? Where was it? You want to go to Zimbabwe?" Mom.
Yeah. Cambodia.
Funny. That's funny, and I don't even like David Cross. So there's that.
No, what's wrong with David Cross?
He's a dick.
Okay.
I won't go into detail.
What has he done to you?
That's
we'll
all
talk
I
about
needed.
it some other time.
We'll have a David Cross podcast, I guess.
How did we? So we've already talked about like the dynamic between Kay and Jay. How do we feel like Rosario Dawson did? This is like the first movie that I remember seeing her in. I'm going through her filmography, and like she's done stuff before this, but this is really like her big opportunity based on. She was in Josie and the Pussycats, I guess, but
she did fine.
Just fine.
Yeah.
What's your beef with Rosario?
Yes, I mean it's Rosario, but I don't think there was nothing here that was like stand out. It was just like, oh, it's a new face, and it's
Interesting.
and
Anybody else?
and if you want to count back to how many times you do see Rosario Dawson, you can count back as far back as this.
Josh?
I mean, I think I mostly agree. I don't think that there's anything like just incredible about what she does with this role.
No,
Man.
and I'll say that I think that she has. There's something about Rosario Dawson. She kind of just works wherever you put her. She has a weirdly kind of like otherworldly look in this movie. Like the second that you find out she's probably an alien, you kind of go, "Oh yeah," because like there's something that looks just kind of special about it, like her eyes or how she, just kind of like how she looks. And so you don't necessarily think like alien in a bad way, but she definitely looks special. She doesn't do. I don't think she brings anything necessarily like groundbreaking in this, but she is really solid. She doesn't weigh the movie down in any way. And yeah, it is one of the first times I'd ever seen her. And I remember as a kid thinking like, she's really pretty. Do I know her? Like I couldn't figure out like what I could possibly have known her from at that
Josie
age.
and Pussycats.
But she
That's
looked
really
familiar.
the biggest thing that she did before this. Man, y'all, I thought she did a really good job. She has a really good dynamic with Jay. She has a really good dynamic with Kay. And
got a good
she
dynamic
really
with the worms.
goes along with everything really well. I think that, anybody, I think the fact that she's able to just accept all of this stuff that's going on is interesting because of the fact that anybody else would be like, was that alien? I don't understand. But because she is an alien, she seems to accept a lot more. And then Tommy Lee Jones at the end, looks at like that speech that he gives about her leaving and that she is the light is really touching. I think that he sees her as like a daughter figure because of the fact that he loved her mother and he has father-like action. I don't know. I thought it was really good. I thought those three did a really good job together.
Yeah. She's like, and I think she's solid. I don't think, like we said, like she's not the main character though.
No.
So, like they don't really give her a lot of meaty things to do. Like the most fun that her character really gets to have is interacting with the worm characters who are kind of in it.
All that I had in that, I just thought that she did a good job.
Agreed.
Okay, great.
Right.
So we didn't talk about it much in the first movie. Can we talk about the music? Let's talk about the Men in Black song.
We talked about it a little bit later.
We did a little bit, but I was basically because I knew everybody liked the song. How do we feel about this song? Nod your head. Black Suits Coming. How do we feel about this song?
Black Suits Coming is a fan favorite in this house. I think the original Men in Black obviously has a bit more nostalgia for most people, but Black Suits Coming, it's pretty catchy. Did you guys notice too? Second verse about Selena.
Didn't notice.
Yeah. Basically, the problem I have with the Nod Your Head, I love Nod Your Head. I love it to death. That I know all the words. I rap along with Will Smith every time. The problem I have with it is the song basically just gives you the whole lot of the movie. It's like there's not only just like the villain part, but like the whole movie is the song, or the whole song is the plot of the movie. It tells you about Selena. It tells you that she done left and that they won. It's but I love it. I don't want to say it's better because I don't think it's better, but I definitely listen to that one more often than I do the original.
Is it better than Wild Wild West?
Nothing's better than Wild Wild West.
There you go.
Nothing.
I mean, the song is better than the movie.
Oh yeah. Well, look, a lot of Will Smith's
better than the movie. Right?
A lot of Will Smith songs end up being better than the movie.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the movie is bad. Although Wild West is bad.
Wild Wild West is bad.
There's a lot of nostalgia going on there, but it's not a good movie. But this song, it's good. I don't think it's as good as Men in Black.
Mm-hmm.
But it's peak Will Smith, so it's still pretty good.
Men in Black just had those good vibes. Like it's so catchy even today.
So is Nod Your Head?
Yeah, I feel like it's very much a sequel. It's kind of weird because it's a sequel song, you know? Like, it works as a sequel to Men in Black, the first song, which you don't really get often, which is like songs that are sequels of one another.
Yeah.
But there's elements that are callbacks. There are elements that are like he's telling you a new story. I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good credit song.
It's okay.
It peaked
Andrew
at
has
number
bad taste in
77 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100.
Go figure.
And let's see, where was it big at? The UK R&B charts, it hit number 1.
Yeah,
Wow.
there we go.
People in the UK
But
love.
nowhere else did it hit number 1. On the U.S. Hot R&B, it hit number 92. Mainstream Top 40, number 23. So, you know, it did its thing.
That's why his nickname is UKL Will.
Is that why? Is that his nickname?
I thought it was Big Willie.
A rap joke.
For comparison, Men in Black, well, I don't even see its Hot 100. It hit number 2 on the U.S. mainstream top 40 and number 1 on the U.S. rhythmic charts. And it hit number 1 in quite a few countries.
Wow.
Australia, Canada, Europe, that's more than a country, but the Euro chart. France, Germany, Hungary, Ireland, New Zealand, Scotland, Switzerland, UK. Number 1 for Men in Black.
Zaire. I mean, it kind of speaks to when you compare that to Men in Black, to Black Suits Coming or Nod Your Head, whatever it's called. It really kind of tells you, gives you a sense of the movie, the two movies, because like Men in Black 1 was a breakout blockbuster that helped establish Will Smith as a leading actor in movies, and Men in Black 2 feels kind of like an obligation.
Yeah, the Men in Black song also won Will Smith a Grammy.
Oh, I did not know that.
I did not know that.
Best rap solo performance in 1998, Men in Black.
Really?
Yes.
Does that happen to contain what it beat?
I can find out very quickly.
I mean, that's cool.
What did I say?
So that makes Men in Black 1 not just an Oscar winner, but a Grammy winner. That's cool.
Yes. So Men in Black 1, it was up against Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Could See by Busta Rhymes, Ain't Nobody by LL Cool J, The Rain by Missy Elliott, and Hypnotized by Biggie.
I Can't Stand in the Rain definitely should have won. Sorry.
Yeah, that's stiff competition.
Yeah, well, Men in Black won, so deal with it.
Just going while we're on the topic of Will Smith, he talked about the Men in Black sequels or while on the Tonight Show. I don't know if anybody's seen this quote. He says, quote, "I had fumbled a few of my last sequels. You know, I wasn't happy with the Men in Black sequel." He doesn't specify which one he's talking about, if he's talking about 2, if he's talking about both of them, but he was basically talking about Bad Boys, I think Bad Boys for Life, and talking about he didn't want to make a sequel to Men in Black just so it would be a cash grab. And again, he didn't specify which one he's talking about, but like we know which one he's talking about.
I'm pretty sure it's this one.
Maybe. I want to, while we're kind of talking about music a little bit, I do want to mention that while I didn't win anything, this is a pretty good score as well from Danny Elfman. That dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
you know that's like you wouldn't think when you just ask somebody, hey, what's the Men in Black, theme score? You wouldn't really. I don't think it really necessarily jumps to mind. But having just watched these last 3 movies, I was like, I sat there and thought, that really is like a really simple, good score that like now that I've watched these 3 movies in succession, it's going to be kind of in my head.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. So I think overall music's pretty good for these movies.
Yeah.
With the exception of Frank singing "Who Let the Dogs Out."
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Frank the Pug is. Ugh. No, I'm not a fan. Not a
He was
fan.
fun in the
He's a-
beginning.
You guys,
They
Not
overdid
now.
him. Yeah.
yeah. It's oh, who's that character? Oh, forget it. Anyway, did you guys ever watch the Men in Black animated series?
Negative.
I did as a kid. I don't really remember a lot of it.
Frank
But-
was a regular character, and then I remember there being a big episode where Frank finally had his Earth costume removed. So you got to see what does Frank really look like, and all these other aliens. Like the guy in the beginning of Men in Black 1, where he's like this big guy, he takes off the thing, and it's like a head with like a thing wrapped around it. He's like a big, tall alien. All these, things opening up, and it's in people's faces, And so Frank loses his skin, and he's an alien that looks exactly like the exact same. He's just an Earth pug alien, but with tiny little antennas. So like literally just like it's just a brown skin that goes, a brown tannish skin that goes around him. He's just like a little blue pug. I was
Nice.
like, as a 10-year-old, I found that amusing.
Yeah. Gosh. Kind of running out of things to say about this movie.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else.
I'm done.
I don't really have a favorite part. I don't know if any of you guys do.
The only part I had that was good was the mail scene. Was the mailroom scene.
Mm.
Yeah, I was just about to say when Will Smith beatboxes, that's my favorite part.
Him and Bismarcky.
I can't do it, man, but that thing he does. where he
Yeah,
goes,
I mean,
I could probably do it.
Oh, sure. I'm sure you could.
try
Andrew.
it, Andrew. You do it immediately.
You
Do it right
barely
now.
string together a dang sentence.
Beatbox right now, Andrew.
Beatbox. You should be embarrassed.
Yes.
I am not.
Glad we are recording.
Good.
How many of you all did it?
I did. I can't do it. That's why I didn't do it.
Do the Bismarcky part now.
I would argue that you also didn't do it,
Who?
Andrew. In the gallery view for you guys, am I still above Andrew?
Hang
No.
on, let me look.
You're
Ah,
above
dang.
Now you're above Garrett.
Right.
When
I
you
wanted
look
to
at-
pull like
now
a Brady
you're
Bunch thing and look down at him and judge,
Yeah,
but that only works for me.
you didn't do a good job.
Anyway, well, should we move on to box office stuff?
Sure.
Oh, actually, we can. I have a tiny little thing I'm gonna add in on that.
Oh.
So here we go. Men in Black 2 debuted the weekend of July 5th, way back in 2002. We were a couple of 12-year-olds. Andrew was about
75.
35 at that point. It finished with a 3-day opening of $52.1 million, which is pretty good. It's not necessarily great when you look at the fact that the first Men in Black 2 also made $51 million 5 years earlier.
Mm.
So not really like a big jump forward for the franchise, if anything, about even. And when you add inflation, it just kind of becomes not that much to look at. That is 4th of July weekend. So if you take its 5-day weekend, it's an $86 million open, which is a little bit more respectable. Looking at what else came out that weekend, Men in Black opened number 1. At number 2, you had Mr. Deeds in its second week. Adam Sandler bringing in $18.4 million. You had Disney's Lilo and Stitch, which was in its third weekend, bringing in $12.6. At number 4, you had Tom Cruise in Minority Report, $12.5. That's in its third week. And also opening that weekend, it's a time capsule to the early 2000s. It's Like Mike with Lil Bow Wow and basically all the best NBA players.
I'll tell you what, that whole list you just went through is like a nostalgia bomb
Oh my god.
Right?
of
I mean,
childhood.
I remember watching all of these movies, and I remember watching
Even Like Mike.
Like Mike used to watch it all the time.
Never
Like I
seen it.
wanted to be like Mike, but with football. I wanted
Michael Jordan did not football.
and I wanted to be like Ricky. Ricky
Ricky.
Ricky
Williams.
Williams.
Oh.
He used to play for the Dolphins a long time ago. This was before his debacle. Anyhow, so if you look at it, one sequel in the top 5 that weekend. With Men in Black 2. Men in Black 2 would finish with 190 million in the United States over its 10-week run. Add another 251.4 million from overseas, and that gives you a worldwide total of $441.8 million unadjusted. If we look at the year 2002, Men in Black 2 would finish in the number 8 spot. Number 1 that year was Spider-Man. We've talked about this year very recently because we were here for the number 2 movie, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, which you can go check out our Two Towers review and the rest of the Lord of the Rings if you're interested in that. Number 3, Attack of the Clones, Star Wars. Number 4, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And number 5, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Like I said, we talked about this a few weeks ago, but if you're interested in some other honorable mentions for that year, Signs, which was the highest grossing original concept movie of that year. And you have like Austin Powers Goldmember, Ice Age, Catch Me If You Can. Let me see here. We talked about Lilo and Stitch, Scooby-Doo, The Ring. So a lot of good movies in the year 2002. Men in Black, not necessarily one of the best. Best Picture winner that year, Chicago. Let me see. And really, that's kind of it for Men in Black 2. No real standouts in terms of interesting stats. At 441 million, it did as a total bring in less than the original Men in Black. So it's a movie that it's sort of a depreciating returns element when it comes to that one. When you adjust for inflation too, it only makes Men in Black 2 look less like a successful follow-up. That's it for the box office this week.
Gotcha.
Oh, wait. I forgot one more thing. I do have a unique thing. So Men in Black 2 had a special re-release that in September of 2002. This was actually how I saw the movie for the first time. In September of 2002, Men in Black 2 released as a special double feature for 3 weeks with Spider-Man. Sony owned both movies, so they released it as a special double showing that mostly smaller town markets could see. I grew up in a town called Paris, Arkansas, and our movie theater had only one screen. So they could effectively only show one movie a night, so they would show Spider-Man, back then, and then they'd show the next movie in the 8 o'clock spot, and then a movie at 10 o'clock, and then that was it. So the double feature was cool because me and my friends, I got to see Spider-Man earlier in the year, didn't see Men in Black. Spider-Man wouldn't come out on home video until December of that year. So this was like the only chance, like I get to go see Spider-Man again. This is great. And they go, and Men in Black 2 is going to be there. So it's like, okay, I'll go see Men in Black 2.
That's pretty cool.
It ended up being really cool. That double feature release netted Men in Black another $6 million in addition with its Spider-Man 2. I guess technically if you split it, it's another $3 million. But so cool double feature. You don't see that very often these days. The movies get released in a double feature format.
Cool.
No,
that's
not
it.
at all. Okay, well, I believe I won the last Letterboxd game.
Did you?
So I will be running it again, or I'll be running it this time. As usual, what we're going to do is take the average score of this movie on Letterboxd, and you guys are going to guess what you think it is on a scale of 0 to 5.
Okay.
I got it pulled up here. Just a second. Okay, so this has been watched by 165,000 members. And that's the only interesting statistic I have. So why don't you guys go ahead and guess where you think this movie landed? Does it tell me that?
I think so. It should say like reviews next to I don't know. Maybe not. Let me pull up my app. I won't look at Men in Black. I'll look at something else.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see that.
Either way, I remember Men in Black 1 being like 3.5 or something like that. I will say this is a 2.9.
I will say 2.5.
I was gonna do that, you jerk. I don't know. I'll Price Is Right you 2.6.
This was almost going to be interesting, but now it's less so. So the winner, who is off by 0.1 point, is 2.7. So Garrett wins.
2.7.
Oh snap!
Garrett wins.
Price Is Right, sucker.
Yeah, Price is Right won that time. 2.75 is the weighted average based on 63,000 ratings. There it is.
63,000. There you go.
Yes, 63,000 ratings.
All right.
7 people have this on their list of favorite movies.
Wow.
We
7.
should reach out. We should reach out to them and ask them why.
Cool
And
stat.
have you seen other movies?
And that means, I don't know,
Men in Black on all of them.
if you go to your Letterboxd profile, this is that section where you can pick up to 4 films to be your favorite.
Mhm.
Oh,
7 people have put that on their profile
Their top
as one of their top 4 movies of all.
Now I'll
Hey.
admit, the movies in my top 4 are not necessarily movies that I think are the best movies of all time. They are literally just movies that are incredibly dear to my heart. So
Yeah, mine
maybe-
are. I treat it
maybe-
as a snapshot in history. My current is Parasite and then Little Women 3 times.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember when it was all 4 of them.
I gave up 1 slot for Parasite.
Like
I
one
don't
of
think I
mine,
can fill it out because it's too much pressure.
That's why I put Little Women 3 times.
like
It's
one of
easier.
mine is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
And that's
and-
that's actually a good one.
If you asked me to make a list of like all-time favorites, it might not make the top 4. Like I love Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but it might not take the top 4 if I just had to sit down and like literally grind over what's my all-time favorites. But if you're just asking me, David, what are 4 movies that like are your favorites and describe what led to your taste in movies? Last Crusade is a key member.
I think that's great.
That's kind of how I view it. So somebody out there really likes Men in Black 2. 7 people.
Yeah. So what are our scores so I can average them up?
I'll say 3.0.
Wow,
3.0.
that's high.
Okay.
1.0.
Whoa, that's low.
That's too low.
Golly.
Okay.
That's too low.
I'm gonna give it a. Oh, I'm gonna give it a. I'm stuck between a 2 and a 2.5. Out of nostalgia, I'll give it a 2.5.
You got to give it at least. You got to give it that half point just for nod your head.
Yeah, I do like the song a lot.
I'm going to give it a 2.
Oh man, this is gonna
Oops,
be a
hang
terrible.
on. So we had, what did we have?
A
3, a 1, a 2.5, and a 2. 2.1 is the So Many
Wow.
Sequels score for this movie. So
Not
I'll have
bad.
to round that down to a 2.
I don't think it's that bad.
You think it's a 1, Nichols? That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable.
I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna go through your letterbox. I'm just gonna figure out what 1-star movies are.
Aaron doesn't really have like a ranking system. He just kind of does it by his own like belief,
Oh,
which is
he's
fine.
rated. He's rated.
But like, I think he'd be because like on mine, a 1 is a bad. It's not a bad movie. It's just poorly executed.
It's poorly executed. For a franchise like this, it should have been better.
You can say that about a ton of movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, to give it a 1
I
star,
can and I will.
a 1 star, that is low, bro.
Yeah.
This is a
It's
man who
not
loves
good.
King Kong. This is a
That-
man
yeah.
who
The only
really
thing is-
loves King
You're
Kong.
you're
saving
going
this-
voice. No, you're done. The
No,
fact
no,
that
no.
you
The
love
only
King
thing saving
Kong,
this
you're done. You're done.
is
You're done.
Tommy Lee
You're done.
Jones. Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones.
Can
Tommy
we
Lee-
replace
So
him?
Tommy Lee Jones gets an automatic 1 star from you.
Can we
Yep.
replace him?
Replace me how you want to. It still gets 1 star.
So any movie
Replace your
gets a
mic?
gets an extra point just for having Tommy Lee Jones?
No. This movie in
Oh.
particular.
So you don't think Will Smith is good?
Not this.
Let's see here.
What is wrong with you?
I'm Andrew Nichols.
You have bad opinions.
Matt,
You're Andrew Nichols and you have bad opinions. That's
Hey,
fine.
I like Will Smith, just not in this movie.
You're wrong.
Sort by lowest first.
Shots fired. Bang, bang.
You're shooting blanks over there.
This is going to be based on what I'm reading here. Based on your personal. Wait a minute. No, that's ain't right. Based on your personal reviews, this is going to be the worst movie you've ever ranked. Your current lowest ranking is a 3-star movie. So I'm going to ask you this right now. Hang on. Let me double check. Because this is by admission your least favorite movie of 2019. You think that Men in Black 2 is worse and less enjoyable than this year's The Lion King, which you gave 3.5 stars?
At least they had good CGI.
You know, yeah, this is an interesting feature that I didn't know existed. Let's see, where'd it go? Andrew, you have logged 117 films on Letterboxd, and your lowest reviewed movie is Men in Black 2 of 117 movies. It's interesting.
Goodness gracious.
Very, very interesting.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I might just go back and re-rate
A lot of
Lion
things.
King.
You need a scale. That's what I'm saying. You just throw them out randomly.
If
Like, you hate Lion King. You hate it so much, and you
I
gave
do.
it 3.5. That's better than average.
I
Average
gave
is
it 3.5 for the CGI.
it's a CGI greater than Tommy Lee Jones.
We need to end this show before I kill him. I'm not
Good CGI, 3.5 stars. Tommy Lee
Somebody
Jones
give me a
one.
neuralizer. He needs his memory wiped.
If only Tommy Lee Jones had been in The Lion King, you could have had a 4.5-star film.
Yeah.
We need to end this.
Hang on. Trying to figure out what everybody else's lowest rated movie is.
Oh, I know mine. I'm pretty sure.
Mine is Black Christmas or The Hustle.
So David's, yours is lowest first. Come on. Is Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
That movie's really bad, but it's also really funny. You're 7 or 12 or whatever I was when I watched that movie. You should read my review for Paranormal Activity, which I think is also very low on.
Oh, that's going to be a fun one because you're the only one that doesn't like that movie.
I'm the smartest person in the world. Thanksgiving should also be ranked really low on there.
Oh. Yeah.
Garrett's lowest rated movie is Oh Ramona.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
And my lowest rated movie is Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
That was not good.
Nope. Okay, so that was a fun detour. Yeah, let's go ahead and end this show. You can find us online, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those fun places. We're also streaming pretty much everywhere you can get podcasts, including the SoundsTooth app, which is an app of local content creators here in Tulsa. So we like supporting that. Please listen to us there or any of those other places. And then like and subscribe to our stuff. We actually just started. We put up a couple videos last week on our Facebook page and YouTube accounts. Those are fun, so go watch those.
More to come. A heated trivia battle between Andrew and myself. They're going to be released soon.
Yeah, more of that to come soon. So go do those things. We'll be back next time with Men in Black 3. So until then,
See you soon.